Hello beautiful people, and I hope this video finds you well. I know that we're still in the middle of the pandemic, and I hope that you guys are taking good care of yourselves and your families. And I wanted to take a few moments, this was actually asked by a group of my students, to do a video on ethics. And so this is not always a popular topic, because of everything that's been happening in our country in terms of conspiracy theories. And I wanted to just kind of take some time to really nail a few things down. It's almost like if you don't hear from me now, in the future you might lose your job, your career, your whole entire life savings because you didn't get the right advice. So let's talk about this for a bit. I'm not here to talk about politics. I could care less about politics. As a college professor, one of my biggest goals is to see you guys get great paying jobs so that you can provide for your families and have a prosperous future. So when I pass on this advice, I want you to know that that's the goal I'm aiming at, right? First of all, what I tell my students in class is that being in law enforcement is not like working a plumber or electrician job. Being in law enforcement, you're required to go through a background investigation. You're required to have good moral conduct, nice background without too many obstacles. And we're not going to go into that. I have other videos to describe that. But what oftentimes happens is once you get hired, you do stupid things. I said people do stupid things. For example, one of the things that we talked about in my class a few semesters ago was an ambulance driver, male, and his medic, female, and I believe he was 27 and she was 32, and they had this game going on where they would take selfies with dead bodies in the ambulance, and this was a big joke to them. They did this for a while until they got caught. Someone turned them in for what they were doing, and now they were getting prosecuted. And so both of them got fired, never to work in ambulance business again, type of thing. Recently, LAPD officers, one officer in particular, a lady, she was caught cheating on her timesheet, and so then she was prosecuted. She was required to resign from the LAPD, and then she went on probation. She had to do a bunch of community service, but her career was over, and again, never to work in law enforcement again. Another instance, female officer gets hired. Is their lifelong dream to become a police officer. On the first day in the squad car, she does a little selfie and she puts a quote under the selfie, "I'm coming after you, B," and it had an S at the end. I don't have to tell you what that's all about. And so the stories continue. The violation of ethics stories continue. We had an officer I work with that had a drug dog, and part of having a drug dog, you have to they give you packs of methamphetamine and other drugs to carry with you so you can train your dog. Well, somehow he fell in love with the prostitute that he met on duty, and then he and her, she and he, started inhaling the methamphetamine, started actually using the drugs. And he was married at the time, and basically, once that relationship was over, she called the police department and turned him in, and that was the end of that. He was prosecuted, never to work in law enforcement again. We had another officer, and again, I hope you're paying attention to all these stories, because these are real stories. These are not made up, or this is not Hollywood. These are things that actually happened. So we had another officer who was very conservative, never liked to cuss, came to work, and a lot of times we'd be in the break room and he would scold us for using profanity or whatever, right? So one day, after being married 27 years, he just tell his wife that, hey, I don't love you anymore, it's over. So his wife picks up the phone and calls the police department and tells them that her husband, a police officer who's divorcing her now, is a kleptomaniac. He's been stealing from the police department for years, and all of the stuff he's been stealing is inside her garage. And she invites the police commander, the watch commander to come over to her house so she could show him all the items that her husband had been stealing from the police department, you know, vests, uniform, equipment, etc. Additionally, recently he had been stealing lumber from a local construction site and bringing it home in his patrol car. So eventually he was fired and was not able to get another job again. Another thing they found out when they investigated him was that he had false registration tags in his car. So, you know, he came across as a conservative individual that was, you know, against profanity, against cussing, but in the background, he was a kleptomaniac and he was stealing a bunch of equipment. And I look back at a day when I came to work patrol, and my flashlight was missing from my bag, and then it turned up later on, and it was just a shell of the flashlight. It had been discarded in the department. So it was almost like, was he the one that was stealing it? Were other kleptomaniacs working for us? I don't know. But the main point of this video is to tell you, well, for him, by the way, you probably wonder what happened to him. He was fired, and then he eventually committed suicide alone in a bathtub. I won't tell you how it happened, but he left behind a couple kids and obviously a family. But anyway, how does this apply to you? Committing ethical violations starts with something minor, such as at the end of your shift, you're supposed to be fueling your patrol car, but instead of fueling your patrol car, you go ahead and park it and leave it empty for the next officer on the shift. Now, that's a violation of the department policy, and you might get away with it for a few times, but eventually you're going to get caught and you're going to get disciplined. Maybe get some days off on the beach without pay, and it's going to be terrible. So, but it eventually progresses to other things. The earlier example that I told you about that LAPD officer, she started shaving or adding time on the timesheets. And, you know, with 6,000 officers plus at the LAPD, she didn't think that she would ever get caught. But she did get caught, and now she has a criminal record, and she lost her pension. Many times when these officers are convicted, they lose their pension. So the officer that I mentioned to you that you know, committed a crime, if he was prosecuted, it doesn't matter if he's got 30 years on the force. The new laws now are saying that if you're a public servant and you get convicted of a felony, you lose all of your pension, all of your retirement. And so this is important for you to be paying attention to as you're young, as you're getting into law enforcement, that ethics violations matter. Again, this is not a job where you basically get fired like a plumber and walk across the street to another company and then get another job. This is a job that you work really hard to obtain, right? It carries with it a lot of authority, a lot of respect. But if you make one mistake, I'm saying serious enough, you're gone. And so there is no blue line, there is no family, there is no blue wall. It's like once you're fired, you've lost all of your coworkers, you've possibly lost your pension, and you've lost your future career. So a lot of times in class when I discuss these issues, I tell the students, if you have to ask yourself if you're supposed to be doing something, 99% of the time the answer is no. You know, like if you should be yelling at someone, using profanity against them, you know, kind of pushing your authority a little bit too much, and your brain, you know, a question pops up in your brain, should I be doing this? And the answer is no. So I hope you listen to my advice. I hope that you can put it to use. If you're working with unethical people in your department, steer away from them. Carve your own way. Protect your future. Protect your family's future and your prosperity. And I thank you for listening. And please stay healthy. Please take good care of yourself. And we'll talk to you real soon for the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and share this with other people that may need this advice. Take good care of yourself. Love you guys.